The story begins with the introduction of Karim al-Farouk, an Arab millionaire whose life is the epitome of luxury and power. Known for his sharp business acumen, he built a massive fortune from international trade and investments. In his country, he is both admired and envied, a man who turns everything he touches into gold. Despite his public success, Karim's personal life remains an enigma. His vast estate, a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of the city, is heavily guarded, and no one except his closest aides has ever entered the private quarters. Rumors swirl about his reclusive nature, his failed past relationships, and a tragedy he keeps buried. Recently, Karim shocked everyone with unexpected news. He got married. The event was an extravagant affair, held at a grand five-star venue adorned with glittering chandeliers and exotic flowers. The bride, Amina, was a striking young woman with a radiant smile. No one knew much about her, as she came from a humble background. Gossipers speculated wildly. Was she after his wealth, or had she truly won the heart of this mysterious millionaire? The wedding painted a picture of a fairy tale beginning. But unbeknownst to anyone, what awaited Amina behind the mansion's gates was far from the life she had imagined. When Amina first stepped into Karim's grand estate, she marveled at its grandeur. The marble floors shimmered, and the halls were lined with priceless art. Each room seemed to tell a story of wealth and sophistication, a far cry from her modest upbringing. She thought she had stepped into a dream. But the dream quickly soured. Instead of being shown to a luxurious master bedroom, she was escorted to a secluded part of the mansion, a spacious, windowless basement. The walls were tastefully adorned, the furniture elegant and comfortable, but it felt isolating. Amina tried to mask her unease. This is only temporary, she thought. Perhaps Karim wanted privacy, or maybe it was some cultural nuance she didn't understand. But as days turned into weeks, her excitement waned, replaced by growing confusion and dread. She soon noticed odd details, doors that were always locked, small, discreet surveillance cameras embedded in corners, meals delivered by silent house staff who avoided eye contact, her phone and other personal belongings mysteriously gone. Amina began to feel like a prisoner in a gilded cage. There was no natural light, no way to know the time of day, and limited human interaction. Any attempt to ask questions was met with polite but vague responses from the staff. Her initial optimism crumbled into suspicion and fear. Why would her new husband, who had shown such kindness and warmth before their wedding, confine her here? What was he hiding? And most importantly, how could she escape this unsettling reality? The answers seemed elusive, but one thing was certain. This was not the life she had dreamed of. Amina's days in the basement blurred together, each one marked by eerie silence and unanswered questions. As time passed, she began to pick up fragments of information through the brief interactions she had with the house staff. Although they were instructed to remain professional and detached, their subtle expressions, whispers among themselves, and offhand comments revealed glimpses of Karim's past. One evening, while being served dinner by Layla, a kind yet nervous housekeeper, Amina casually asked, "Why is my husband so cautious? He wasn't like this before." Layla hesitated, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the plate. "Madam, it's not my place to say, but Mr. Karim has faced great sorrow. Trust doesn't come easily to him." Over the following weeks, Amina pieced together the puzzle. Through hushed conversations and observing the way staff avoided certain topics, a tragic story emerged. Years ago, Karim had been married to a woman named Nadia. The union was said to be filled with love and passion, but it ended in betrayal and heartbreak. Nadia, it seemed, had manipulated Karim's trust, siphoning money from his businesses and colluding with his rivals to orchestrate his downfall. The betrayal not only tarnished Karim's reputation, but nearly destroyed his empire. It took years of relentless work to rebuild what he had lost. However, the emotional scars remained. Some staff even suggested there was more to the story, that Karim's obsession with control stemmed from a darker incident. There were rumors of threats, stolen company secrets, and a near-fatal attack orchestrated by people he trusted most. Amina began to see the man she married in a new light. His need for privacy, his obsession with security, and now her confinement. All of it was rooted in a deep-seated fear of betrayal. While she empathized with his pain, she also felt the growing weight of her imprisonment. She couldn't be blamed for someone else's mistakes. The reality of her situation became increasingly unbearable. Amina's initial hope for an explanation or release dissipated, replaced by a burning need to regain her freedom. She explored every inch of the basement, searching for a way out. The luxurious setting belied its true nature. A prison. The heavy doors were locked with electronic keypads. Windows were sealed or too small to squeeze through. Karim's surveillance system tracked her every move. Even so, Amina refused to give in to despair. One night, while rummaging through a storage closet, she stumbled upon an unexpected discovery. An old cell phone tucked away behind a pile of linens. The phone was dusty, its screen cracked, and it appeared to be long forgotten. With her heart racing, she powered it on. To her relief, it had a weak charge, enough for a single call. The decision of whom to call weighed heavily on her. If she called the authorities, it might escalate the situation and put her at greater risk. If she contacted a family member or friend, she would have to explain her predicament, which she still struggled to fully comprehend herself. Finally, mustering every ounce of courage, she dialed the one person she trusted completely, her elder brother. Speaking in hurried whispers, Amina explained her situation. The call was brief, her words cut short by the fear of being overheard, but her brother's determination was clear. "Hold on, Amina. I'll get you out of there." When the call ended, a mix of relief and fear washed over her. She had made a move, but the next steps were unpredictable. The hidden phone had given her a glimmer of hope, but it also intensified the stakes. If Karim discovered her actions, his reaction might be anything but forgiving. This act of desperation marked a turning point. Amina knew that the call set things in motion beyond her control. Whether for better or worse, change was inevitable, and she steeled herself for what lay ahead. Amina's heart pounded as the phone call ended. She had reached out to her brother, desperately hoping someone could help her escape the suffocating grip of her new life. Her brother, understanding the urgency of the situation, wasted no time. He didn't merely offer comforting words, he made a plan. Within hours, he had contacted the authorities, alerting them to her possible abduction and illegal confinement. Karim, who had been unaware of the call due to the careful monitoring of his security systems, began to sense something was amiss when Amina was unusually absent from her room. His paranoia flared, as the voices on the security monitors indicated a slight disturbance near the storage closet. His hidden phone had gone missing. His heart began to race as he quickly pieced the situation together. Realizing Amina had attempted to reach out to the outside world, Karim rushed down to the basement. His footsteps echoed through the house as he approached the door, the panic growing within him. When he opened it, Amina was sitting quietly on a cushioned chair, trying to stay calm but visibly anxious. Karim locked eyes with her. "What did you do, Amina?" he asked sharply, his voice shaking but filled with rage and fear. Amina tried to explain, but her words were interrupted as Karim's distrust boiled over. "Do you think I'm a fool? After what happened with Nadia? You were probably plotting against me all along, just like she did." His eyes were wild with hurt, his mind trapped by the memories of past betrayals. He pulled the chair out from underneath her, forcing her to stand. "I thought you were different. I thought you could prove me wrong," he muttered under his breath. "But this just confirms it." For a brief moment, the silence in the room grew overwhelming, as Amina's heart shattered at his words. She now understood the true depths of his trauma. Karim's actions weren't those of a man seeking control for the sake of power, but someone trying to protect himself from the ghosts of his past. She tried to explain. "Karim, I love you. I didn't want to hurt you. I only called for help because I was scared. You've pushed me away without explanation. I don't want your wealth. I don't want your status. I just want a life with you. A real life." But her words barely seemed to register. To Karim, they were too little, too late. In his eyes, love and trust had been manipulated once before, and now they seemed impossible to rebuild. At the peak of the confrontation, just as Karim took another step toward her in anger, a loud crash interrupted their tense moment. The front door was kicked open, and several officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Amina's brother, who had alerted the police in time, had arrived with help. The officers moved swiftly, surrounding Karim as they announced their presence. In the chaos, Amina realized that her plea had reached more than just her brother. Karim's actions had alerted his enemies as well. It turned out that a rival business competitor, once aligned with Nadia, had been plotting against him all along, tracking Amina's movements in an attempt to weaken Karim. When Karim's jealousy and paranoia spiraled, his insecurity made him vulnerable. The authorities had been tipped off not only to Amina's plight, but also to an external conspiracy. Karim's face went pale as he listened to the officer explain how his former associate had used his emotional instability to exploit the situation. Amina's escape attempt, far from being a betrayal, had been her attempt to protect him from a much larger danger looming outside. His obsession with betrayal blinded him to the truth. As he absorbed the revelation, the anger within him deflated, replaced by overwhelming regret. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the realization that his trust issues, driven by unresolved trauma, had caused him to nearly lose everything, including the woman he had genuinely loved, but had pushed into the basement of his own emotional prison. The confrontation reached its pivotal conclusion. The police ensured that all legal matters were handled, and that Amina was safe. Karim, broken by the truth, requested time alone, insisting on speaking to Amina one last time. The couple sat in silence, the weight of everything that had happened between them hanging in the air. "Can we start again?" Karim asked, his voice raw with emotion, his eyes pleading. "I've made terrible mistakes. I was so afraid of losing you. But now, I've lost more than I can bear." Amina looked at him, her heart torn between the person he once was and the one who had locked her away. She sighed deeply, understanding the depths of his pain, but unwilling to be trapped in it forever. "I love you, Karim, but love is not enough to build a life. It's trust. It's freedom." She stood up, ready to make her own choice. "You don't have to stay, Amina," he whispered, his voice a mixture of surrender and heartache. Amina took one last look at him, torn. She knew that their past had been tainted by fear and misunderstanding. But as she walked away, she made her decision. Freedom was what she needed, and freedom was what she would take. She left the mansion that day. It wasn't just a departure from a home, but from a version of herself she no longer wanted to live as, a prisoner to love's toxic shadows. The story closes with a reflective note on the power of trauma and its influence over decisions. It warns of the consequences of allowing past pain and betrayal to dictate present relationships. The importance of trust, communication, and understanding in love is clear. Healing from wounds, whether they be emotional, physical, or spiritual, requires a choice. It is a painful but necessary process. Trust must be rebuilt, or else a love that is full of potential will crumble under the weight of unchecked fears.